Okay, welcome to Pat's Cast, the unofficial Regina Pats podcast. I'm Matt.
Chris.
This is episode 2 for May 6th, 2018.
Battle on the wall for it. Ellis in there as well. Boychuk looking for it. Tavares pulls it out. Tavares backhand towards the goal. Loose puck. Everybody scores! Tie game! Can you believe it? High speed to the left point. Into the left circle. Snap shot. Scores! What a shot! Leave Ryan! And the Pats lead forward! Here is game number 4.
Okay, welcome to Pat's Cast. Today is our Bantam Review Draft episode. We have a really good interview coming up with Brennen from Draftgeek.ca. He provided us a lot of insight on these players that, frankly, we don't know too much about, but this guy and his crew put in a lot of work looking at these guys, and he has some really great information on the future of our team.
Yeah, he's been out there. He's seen some of these players play, and as well as the other scouts that he deals with. So they've got some eyes on these kids.
So before we get to that interview, we just want to talk about some of the draft day deals and leading up to the draft that we did. So day of draft, pick up Justin Gurney, 17-year-old from Calgary. He was originally a 6th-round draft pick with Calgary, and we gave up a 6th-round draft pick for him. So pretty even trade there. Not terribly stellar stats. 1 goal, 3 assists with Calgary this year in 54 games. Paddock was hoping, they obviously see something in this guy. They mentioned change of scenery being something that could get him maybe back up to the level that they see in him.
Yeah, just another body for next year. We're going to be struggling to find players for next year. We're going to lose a lot of guys, so
it's a lot of holes. A lot of holes we're looking at for next year.
Yeah. So he had some potential. He had some pretty decent stats in his major midget season, last major midget season.
Right.
So
good. So yeah, welcome Justin to Regina Pats. We hope to see him next year, make an impact with us.
A signing a couple weeks ago, Garrett Wright out of Mesa, Arizona. We don't know too much about him. I don't think we had anybody that's seen him, but he had some good stats down playing in Anaheim for the Junior Ducks. So he's already made some travel to play some hockey, and it looks like he's pretty committed signing with us. So another body for next year. He had a 2-game stint in the USHL, so that's the top tier junior league in the States. So probably as a young guy, got a couple games in there, got some experience.
Congratulations to Cole Sillinger getting drafted 11th overall to the Medicine Hat Tigers. Would have been, obviously we don't have a pick high enough to get anyone like that, but boy, that would have been a nice story to get.
Yeah, well, we do have his brother, so.
Oh, okay.
Lucas.
Okay.
Is a prospect.
Prospect? Okay. It would have been nice to get another one of the Sillinger lineage. Obviously a great Regina past player and really successful NHL player. All right, we'll get into the interview now with Brennen from Draft Geek. Again, thanks, Brennen, for doing this with us. We just want to thank you first off for doing this. We want to get a bit of information.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. We want to get a bit of information from you. Why don't you just give us a bit of a story about who you are and, frankly, why you're doing what you're doing? It seems like a lot of work you're putting into something that's a little bit obscure.
Yeah, it's sort of a niche market there, tracking the Bantams for an entire year when you're not really associated with any organization, but it's sort of how you have to work your way up and network with those guys at the rink. And if you're not there and you're not going to the games, you don't really have anything to really push yourself into a position like that down the road.
Yeah.
So I started following Major Junior about 3 or 4 years ago, and that's when I got my first Western Hockey League pass and got to scout all those games. And then moved on to the Bantams. Last year was my first year started doing that, and then it just sort of progressed from there, and now we're going into our 3rd season next year.
Okay, so it's like a long-term kind of project. You want to get scouting and, higher
Yeah, it's sort
levels.
of a way to profile our work and then eventually work our way into like a management or scouting position down the road.
What's your background right now? Are you involved in hockey at all, or what are you doing?
I'm only scouting with Draftgeek right now, and we're sort of looking at what we're gonna pursue next year, but probably just gonna do another full year scouting. Really the Alberta region, but we do track all 4 provinces and the CSSHL especially. They're getting a lot more high-end players now, as you could probably see in the draft results there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
Good. How many are involved in Draft Geek then?
So it's me and my friend Brennen, and then we have a scout in Winnipeg. We have a scout in Saskatoon, Swift Current, and then me and Braden pretty much cover Alberta, BC, and then we get those guys to cover the 2 eastern provinces.
Good. Who's your main target for these projections? Who's buying these guides?
It's primarily parents, and we have a good amount of scouts and a couple general managers that buy it every time. But
Hmm.
yeah, I would say it's pretty much parents that get it.
Yeah, I think it's amazing work. We were looking through it and I'm thinking, who's putting all the time to this? This
Yeah,
is
it's impressive. Yeah.
yeah, we were really
Yeah, well, thank
impressed.
you. Yeah, it's funny because we've gotten a lot of feedback and compliments on the work we're doing, but to us, we're still like 1/5 or 1/6 of where we want to be. So hopefully next year's guide is a even bigger jump, and I'm sure it'll be seen.
No, that's fantastic. I mean, we were big supporters of the WHL and junior hockey, so even this is even better to get this foundation and um, the information for us and fans and everything. I think it's awesome going forward.
Yeah, no, it's great. Junior hockey is a really interesting. It's like a community you become part of, and it's really supportive.
It is. We've noticed that even just starting this podcast recently, everyone reaching out and helping each other, and people being more than willing to lend some time and information that we know and they know to sharing on podcasts and whatnot. So it is. It's a unique, pretty tight community.
Regina didn't have many high picks this year,
No,
but
good.
still got a
So
couple guys.
yeah. So why don't we get into some of the picks we did get here? Um, Again, we didn't have a lot. Traded up into the fourth round. We picked up from Victoria. Gave up. What did we give up? A fourth round and an eighth round next year to get up into the fourth. Otherwise, we would have started in the sixth. Picked up Jake. How do you say his last name? Snazall?
Snashel.
Snashel. Good. Out of
Yeah.
Calgary. You had a little excerpt on your guide there. Do you know any other information on him? Any insight?
Yeah, well, Jake, he was an interesting prospect this year. He missed the first part of the year. Just, I think it was he had something broken. It was either an arm or a leg, I think. But when he came back, he was pretty impressive, but sort of just kept improving on the year. And he's a guy he's bigger and can play physical, so he's a bit more confident at this level. And sometimes that you have to sort of toe the line there, but moving forward into midget and junior, he's one of those guys that if he continues to get heavier, get stronger, he could be probably a top 6 winger down the road.
It's funny you say get heavier. We're looking through and we're kind of reading through and think these guys, man, they're 140 pounds, 150 pounds. Then you start thinking about it. These are 13, 14-year-old kids, right? Like they're just children almost out there, and um, trying to predict how they're going to be, how they're going to mature and become a young adult into men. I mean, people change a lot over those years in their life, right? So that's got to be a challenging part of looking at these kids. I
Yeah,
imagine the programs they come from, though, you must good coaching and things like that must be a big factor.
yeah. As long as they have the skill level, and they're in a program where they're able to keep on developing. As long as they get to a point, like there is a certain height and weight where you have to say, well, if he gets hit, he's probably not going to play many more games in our league. So if I usually say around 5'7", we've seen guys like Alex DeBrincat come through, but at this age, your 6th-round pick, 130th overall, Dalen Weigel, he's only 5'6", 119.
Yeah.
But 2-3 years down the road, he could shoot up, even if he's 5'10", 5'11". There's no problem there in the Western Hockey League. So it's difficult to project, but you can also do a lot with players at sort of every size.
Yeah, for sure. And I know our head scout was really discussing a couple of guys that had some NHL bloodlines, and they, kind of project, what the dad is like, right? So, this guy, has a potential to grow, right? So they look at the dad and say, hey, this guy can grow and get thick.
Yeah, exactly. And not just parents, they look at brothers, cousins, like there's a lot of it's a funny story, your 9th rounder, Adam Grenier, he's I believe 5'6" right now.
Yeah, 130.
But he has a cousin who's 6'4". So you never really know where those guys are going to go to.
Good. So you just touched on Dylan Wager a little bit. He's out of Warman. It's, I think, the only Saskatchewan guy we picked up, which it's too bad. I guess we like to have homegrown talent, but small guy coming in.
Defenseman as well. So.
Yeah, that's small for defenseman. Like Paddock said, I think if you look at our roster going into next year, boy, we have a lot of holes to fill. I don't know if they're just trying to fill holes here or what's going on, but any insight on him? I noticed he wasn't on the guide, so if not, that's all right. But any more on him?
Yeah, no, we didn't have him in our rankings, but it was more of where we project him and sort of the size. And there's certain players where you get into debates where you have to question whether they're going to be elite junior A players or if they have what it takes to take that step and become a major junior player, which when you're looking at size factors, you're looking at that becomes even harder to project. But he was a captain of the Wildcats, and they made it to they won the league, made it to the Western Championship. He's a good skater, good puck skills, but just a guy who we'll see in 2 or 3 years what happens.
Yeah, it's all about that size and height development, hey?
It's such a unique league too, right? You're thinking, like we're saying, these guys coming in, they're young, they're small, but they're playing, frankly, men in some instances, 19, 20-year-old men. It must be such a tough jump to go from midget into the dub, or any junior hockey for that matter.
Yeah, especially when you're skilled enough that you're playing higher in the lineup and you have to face those, top-notch physical defensemen.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be a bit of an adjustment, but it seems as though as we're moving forward, the players are a bit more prepared for that because I would say the midget prep league in the CSSHL has done a really good job sort of mimicking the, I guess, style the WHL plays. So the players coming out of there are, they can transition a bit quicker. And I mean, you saw that with Dylan Cousins down in Lethbridge this year, who just tore it up, won Rookie of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
Moving forward is probably a top 20 NHL draft pick.
Yeah, he stepped in the playoffs last year there and even looked good against us,
Yeah, exactly.
as a 15-year-old.
And it's not just the academy programs that are doing it. I mean, the Saskatoon Major Midget League, they're doing a great job. They always put a high number of kids in the league. So, I mean, size is a factor, and especially when these kids they're so solid. Like, you look at how a guy like Sam Steele matured physically, and he's such a balanced and solid physical player now that you never really would have thought that when he came into the league.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's tough to knock him off the puck. So
Good. So next pick, Colby Watton out of Manitoba, 5'10", 141 pounds. Paddock says he's about a third line potential, chance to move up. Good frame, strides well. Sees him. I don't know if you know who Logan Nyhoff is with us, but he made a comparison to him regarding Colby.
Yeah, I didn't get to see Colby live at all this year, but our scout had pretty high praise for him. He's a late birthday too, which is always something that scouts look at. Over a point per game, had 24 goals, 24 assists. Yeah, I think he's probably a guy who's going to step into their midget AAA program next year, and then sort of it's a big development year for a guy in that position. Anyone really taken after the fourth round, so between 5 to, I would say, 7 or 8, those guys potentially could step in after a year, but he'll probably need another year or two before you really know what he'll be. But yeah, I would say probably a middle six forward moving forward.
Just touching on, looking at their stats, 33, 35 games, that must be a tough transition too, going from, you're basically doubling your games, and I imagine practices are quite a bit more frequent. Tough on growing bodies, right? Hey, that's a big step.
Yeah, especially for the first year, and I think that's why you see some higher end guys maybe sit out a bit more throughout the regular season. Like guys who are in their first year coming out of midget.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, some of the kids have shown that they can handle it no problem. But I mean, another problem that you look at is with the U.S. National Development Program is the guys who are going down there are playing around 100 games a year. And you look at the Western Hockey League, who's now down to 68. And that actually becomes a bit of a factor in the recruiting process because these guys have a chance to play so many more games. And there's a lot of factors that draw players in from the U.S., but if you were able to pull a player like Ty Smolanich, that sort of gets the retooling process on a bit quicker. And not really sure what route he's planning on heading down, but a guy like him, if you brought him in, that would do a lot to your franchise.
yeah, no, for sure. That was a high pick, third round last year, but it's still up in the air whether or not what route he's going. So,
Do you think, just speaking of American players, is the NCAA starting to pull away players that we would normally get, or is that more of a viable option for players now? Is it getting stronger?
Well, it's becoming more competitive, I would say, and I mean, even there's a player out in I think Victoria who's probably going to be or would be a top 3 pick if he came to the league next year, but he already committed to, I believe, the University of Wisconsin. So yeah, when you have 13 and 14-year-olds making verbal commitments, it does a lot to sort of the landscape of where teams are comfortable drawing players from. And I mean, Aiden Haraschuk, PG got him in the 5th round this year. He would have been probably the first overall pick if he chose to come.
You even notice in the NHL entry draft a lot more coming from NCAA.
Yeah, and a lot of guys developing later on in their career too, around 22, 23, and then making the jump.
yeah, for sure. We picked up Nick Henry. He was committed, but we sent a pick to Everett, and then I guess we wooed him to stay here. So
yeah, and he's been a great player over the past couple of years.
yeah, no, definitely. That was a good pickup for whatever we sent. I don't know, it was a later round pick. So
Okay, moving on to round 8, we got defenseman Parker Berg out of Edmonton, 5'10", 147. Sounds like that's a pretty good frame to grow into. Paddock says
Yep.
more of a number 5 defenseman. So yeah.
Yeah, I got to see him quite a bit this year on that CAC team. Definitely projects as a depth defenseman, but he's he's pretty defensively sound, more physical style, and he's got good size and put up all right numbers, and we'll see how that trends in the next year if he's able to make the jump up to midget AAA, and if he's able to maybe keep those numbers up and keeps developing as a skater, he might be a guy who they look at as a depth guy within the next 2 years. So it's funny with most of these prospects. It's we'll see, but that's pretty much how it is, and sort of why I'm an advocate of moving the draft ahead a year. But that's another story.
Yeah, oh, for sure, right? You know, they're so young yet and small. You never know, right?
Yeah.
Okay, round 9, we got Adam Grenier out of Coquitlam, 5'6", 130. Yeah, we touched on his size. That's small, but we have a small guy now, Cole Dubinsky, playing with us. He played a couple games, so it's not a total knock against him, but I mean you have to play pretty hard. John Paddock even says here he plays outside of his stature, so you never know, right?
Yeah, sort of with the style he plays, it doesn't really impact him too much being like a not overly physical forward. He's smaller like that. He works well off the wall and sort of creates plays more. He's a guy who will get the puck on the wall, jumpstart the transition, and work his way in off the rush. And he doesn't control the puck too much in the offensive zone, but he's quick. He can find guys who are open right near the crease, and yeah, he'll play on that Elite 15 team next year, and hopefully continues to produce and gets a little bigger.
Good. So next guy was Marcus Taylor. I noticed you guys had him. We drafted him round 9, 192 overall. You had him ranked number 40. Something happened between the rankings, and why did he fall so low?
No, we had him 40. We actually after the first round talked to a few different guys, after the second round, and who had projected him as well in the second round. So we weren't really too sure why he was falling. There might be a possible verbal commitment to an NCAA team that we weren't aware of. Maybe he just fell because teams saw something else in him. But we really like him. He's a good defensive two-way defenseman, good skater. Skill-wise, he's at a high level. There's some strength to his game. He's sort of a reliable sort of number 5 guy when you look at him as a 18, 19, 20-year-old. So we'll see what happens with him. I wasn't too sure why he fell, actually.
Yeah, it could be a steal. That'd be nice.
Yeah, for sure. Like in terms of defensemen from this class, he was at a skill level equal to those who were probably going in the 5th round, 4th round, I'd say.
Yeah.
So it's such a different group of defensemen in terms of style that you could choose from, that maybe teams just opted for more offensive defensemen or something else there.
Yeah.
So these two American guys, we got Jake Johnson out of Scottsdale, Easton Armstrong out of LA. Almost kind of feel like throwing darts. Doesn't really sound like they know too much about these guys other than their lineage more than anything, it sounds like.
Our head scout was saying that they kind of want to make a little bit of inroads into that Phoenix area. And you said there's lots of players down there. And this Jake Johnson's a family friend with Garrett Wright, who we just signed a couple weeks ago. He's out of Mesa. So, he's like, well, we'll throw a couple guys in and see if we can make some inroads.
And then Easton Armstrong, his dad played for John Paddock in the AHL. So, these sound like some speculation, but who knows? Maybe you could hit one.
Yeah, maybe down the road, 1 or 2 of these guys come. I mean, I got to see Jake Johnson at the John Reed tournament, and he was a guy who I thought if he was playing in, say, Northern Alberta or Saskatchewan, he's probably going to be a bit higher, probably in the 5th or 6th round area. But he's a skilled two-way guy, and if they're able to land a couple of these Americans, that helps out even more. But yeah, 10th round, 11th round is sort of just throwing darts at the wall there.
Mm-hmm. And then lastly, Colby Bear, a forward out of Manitoba, 6 foot, 171. So he's got some size on him already. That could be good for us. Yeah, probably not too much on him. Round 11 again. Yeah, we're just filling holes at that point probably.
Yeah, and like a guy who put up with that size and able to put up a point per game, you're sort of just watching him, seeing where he fits in next year, how he progresses, and maybe there's something down the road. But yeah, good size and good skating, so we'll see.
So most of these guys we're not expecting to see playing with us next year, or what are you thinking? When we look at our roster, we're losing a lot of guys through aging out as well as moving on to the AHL. Probably all have NHL contracts. We have a lot of holes. You think any of these guys are ready to make that jump?
Well, these guys won't be able to for a year because they have to sit out. But once the 99 group is at their is 20, I think maybe Snashel will be able to play as a depth guy and maybe gets his feet wet in the league. Jake Johnson would be interesting if they're able to bring him in. He might stick around, but other than that, I would say they'll probably be picking up some forwards through free agency. And yeah, it's interesting to see what'll happen next year with the team. Like guys like Kobe Morriso we'll see if he can make a jump to become the top line center. I guess they hope he can be. A guy like Ty Smilanich, if he was able to, or if they were able to bring him in, he would be a big addition and probably wouldn't be a top 6 guy immediately, but within 2 years he's up there. And you'll have to see with guys like maybe Lasician and Henry if they choose to move those guys because they traded away their next 2 first-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe pick up some picks and some prospects because they're not going to be back next year with the amount of guys moving out. So
right.
It's almost, do they wait until the trade deadline before they do that? Maybe. But if they do it earlier in the year, maybe you have a better idea of what you'll be moving forward.
Yeah, we're not too confident in a stellar year next year for the Pats, but
yeah.
But it's all part of the process, right? You get to know these guys now. You see how they rebuild. We both trust the staff here and the leadership with Paddock and GMs and whatnot. So it's not going to probably be maybe not even be a playoff year, but I mean that's part of junior hockey. It's cyclical. It goes through. You have rebuilding years, and it might be kind of fun to get in on it right now and get to know these guys and watch them develop over the next few years, and who knows, maybe make another run here in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and that's how it is. And I mean, getting to see your team in the Memorial Cup, that's as good as it gets. That's the goal. But I would also have confidence with that management group. I know a lot of their scouts and really intelligent group of guys, and as long as they can bring in these guys, and I mean, probably have to pick up a couple first round or second round picks over the next couple of years, but they're able to do that. I think the rebuilding process would be pretty quick and they'd be back on their feet before they knew it.
Good. I think, well, that's all our picks. Why don't you let everyone know how they can get a hold of you and what they're looking for, what you have to offer?
Yeah, for sure. You can find all of our info and our 2018 WHL draft guide at Draftgeek.ca. Also on Twitter at Draftgeek Hockey. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, right on. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks a lot. All right,
All
cool.
right, yeah. Thanks again. Keep up the good work, okay?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Anytime you guys need anything, just give me a text or whatever works for you.
Right
Yeah,
on.
sure.
Good. All right, see you.
All right.
Bye.
See you guys.
Thanks, Brennan from Draft Geek, for that again. Great insight on some upcoming players in our system. Probably won't see any of these guys next year, but looking forward to the next couple of years, rebuilding years. I think we have some good prospects here going forward.
Yeah, got some potential. So see what happens in a couple of years.
Right on. So it is May 6th. We're 2 games into the WHL final. Since we don't have any Pats relevant news to talk about right now, we may as well talk about them. We got Swift Current Everett playing. Game 2 was last night. Boy, after that first game, Everett looked pretty good. It was a close game. Everett came out strong. Game 2, boy, I didn't expect Swift Current to do what they did. You know, they're up 3-0. Everett's up 3-0.
I thought Swift Current would have a little more urgency in the first period, but you know, Everett got the first one. The second one was a little weak, and then they didn't look good at all. But they sure poured it on in the third period.
So you have Everett up 3-0. And we're talking, okay, Swift Current's got to score 4 goals on Carter Hart and a good defensive team. Not looking good right now, but they did it.
Yeah, it's surprising. Like last time that happened to Everett, it was November 30th, 2014. They were up on Kootenay 3-0 and lost 4-3 in overtime. That was 310 games ago.
Right. So this was a monumental comeback by the Broncos. I don't know if it was as much as Everett not playing well and Swift Current stepped it up. I mean, that's always the age-old question. Who folded or who stepped up? I don't know.
Yeah, it was a combination of both. You could see Everett was stuck in their zone a lot of that third period, just chipping the puck out, just getting it out, and whereas in the first half of the second period, it was the other way. They really were dominating the play and taking it to Swift Current.
And I think I've seen enough Swift Current games this season. As a Pats fan, I'm kind of getting tired of it. I tried my hardest to get behind the Swift Current Broncos, and I'm sorry, everyone. I used to live there, but boy, it's hard to cheer for the team that knocked us out. I've been trying, but boy, I think we're behind Everett here.
Yeah, I am for sure. So
sorry to disappoint all the. I know everyone's saying, "Oh, it's a Saskatchewan team." It just doesn't. Yeah, I don't care, man.
Just not Swift Current.
I would have been better with Moose Jaw.
Yeah.
I
Unfortunately,
think.
yeah.
But here we are. I mean, Swift Current's got a monumental task going back. Anyone who doesn't know, they're playing 2 in Swift, flying back together on the same plane, both teams, to Everett, playing 3 games there. And then if need be, they come back to Swift Current and play the last 2. So it's a little different than the Q and the O, doing the regular format 2-2-1-1-1. So it's kind of a unique thing with WHL, I think, or at least the last couple of years we saw with Regina and Seattle.
Well, it's similar to last season. We lost the first game. We won the second game in overtime, and then we go back to Seattle for 3. That's tough because you want to take.
It's a long time to be away too.
Yeah, you need to take 2 out of 3 because you don't want to be coming home down 3-2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's what we did.
Yeah, and you got to win 2 out of 3 on the road. That's going to be tough.
It's a tough
format. Yeah.
But I mean, with travel and they can't even fly into Swift Current for goodness sakes. They got to fly to Regina. So you had the flight plus another
couple hours on the bus
drive, and man, I don't know how that plane. It's got to be. I mean, these teams barely know each other, and it was getting pretty rough and chippy out there.
Yeah, for sure.
So now to share a plane, I don't know. Hopefully, they got to be mature on there, but I imagine there's a bit of sportsmanship going on even on the plane. I wonder who gets the front and the back.
Well, Everett might be coming back and staying for a while. They'll be packing for couple of weeks.
Yeah.
They'll come if they can win it in Swift. They'll
hopefully
probably stay here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
No, they wouldn't be going home. I wouldn't think so.
No. Well, we're pulling for them. I don't know with the rest of the province, but.
Yeah, I think it sounds like a lot of people are cheering for Swift, but not us.
Not us. We've had some chance to watch it's been good TV coverage, at least with the O and the Q, a little bit on Sportsnet. Got to watch the first game of the Q, the Teton and Armada. I hope, God, for our sake, Teton doesn't win, then having to sound like
Some French guy.
yeah, we're trying to pronounce that.
Or even the Armada's town. I don't
Yeah,
know. You're
yeah.
gonna try to butcher that one.
Yeah. Pretty bad. Two Prairie Boys trying to put on a French accent.
Yeah. No, it was nice to see that on TV, and then they both have TV coverage, so even if it's not on Sportsnet, you can find it out there on the internet. So we were able
You
to
can
watch.
find it if you know where to look.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
I imagine everyone has an idea.
yeah. So we got to watch I watched the first game of the O, so that was quite the game.
Yeah, again,
Sioux, yeah, I don't know, they're number one team, but Hamilton is very good.
and we didn't get to see a lot of the Sioux through the playoffs, just watching scores and highlights and things like that. But boy, man, they've been playing with fire this whole time. They score with 1 second left, zero.
Yeah.
It was like 0.1 second one time they scored left. They're squeaking through, but they're so close to being on the other side of the story. Good teams. How many? They went to 7 with
Kitchener, double overtime.
Kitchener, but Owen Sound took them to 7 as well.
Yeah, as well.
Right?
So,
like, I kind of, as much as we've got to see them, I kind of get the feeling maybe they're built like a Moose Jaw. They're really highly skilled, dominated the regular season. People were saying they're one of the best teams in CHL history. I think they're going to retract that after playoff performance here.
Yeah, and Hamilton's rolled through the playoffs. I think they've lost 3, and now their fourth one was in the final here.
Right.
Like they rolled through that the Eastern Conference there.
They took game 1 in overtime. They were up
Yeah.
3-0 at one point. Again, Sioux came back, scored some goals. For Hamilton to get the split in Sioux, can't ask for too much more than that. Hopefully they can close it. I don't know why I'm saying hopefully. Again, I don't really have a lot in these team bias or anything in these teams, but I don't know. I'm just one of those guys that seems to pull for the underdogs. At the same time, would it be nice to see Sioux when they're in Regina here, maybe pick up a game and see them play? I don't know. I guess you got to win though, right?
Yeah, and the other series in the queue is 1-1 as well, so it's gonna be some good series here.
All the conferences are tied up 1-1 right now. Good. So we will wrap up today once these championship finals get a little bit further on and end up. We'll try and get a
preview. We're gonna get some insight on the O team. I think we're gonna have a guest lined up, and then we'll give our 2 cents on the Dub team, and then I don't know the Q. See what happens out there, and throw out some names for you, because I don't think we'll have any guest or real good insight on that one.
Okay, thanks for listening. We'll watch the championship series here and get back to you guys with whoever comes out of those with a little bit of insight on them. And we're getting excited for the Memorial Cup. We're not far away now. It's hopefully the Pats are getting down on the grindstone, getting some good practices in, and they better be ready to fly here on that Friday night. Anything else you want to say?
No, that's good.
Again, follow us on WHL Patscast, and we hope to hear from you.